This is Pod Populi.
Podcast for the people.
The Great Love Debate. It's the Great Love Debate.
The Great Love Debate. It's the Great Love Debate.
Hi again, everyone. It's Brian Howie. Welcome to the Great Love Debate, the world's #1 dating and relationship podcast. Since 2015, I am here in the very fine studios of Pod Populi, Podcast for the People. I'm at the one in Scottsdale, Arizona, as I have reminded you many times. Scottsdale is a Native American word meaning bottomless mimosas. If those of you who have listened for a long time, and those of you mostly who have listened this year, know that as I record this, we're in sort of late 2022. And for most of the first half of 2022, I could not have been more hopeful. I could not have been more optimistic. I could not have been more, things have never been better. People are so excited about dating again. The dating world is great, blah, blah, blah. Well, it turns out that's like if you've ever been in a hurricane, there's a moment where the sky's all brighten and you think the storm is over. Oh, was I incorrect? And I'm not really sure why. I have my theories, but when I am not really sure why, I bring in somebody who probably is sure why, because she is deep, deep in the muck. She has been our lead love guru at the Great Love Debate for many, many years. If you go to greatlovedebate.com, and you'll see a little button there that says Talk to Kim. This is the aforementioned Kim. She's known as Kimmy Love, at least on this podcast. Kim Seltzer, how are you?
I'm good. It's so good to be back. It's been a while, actually. I was thinking about that the other day, but you and I were talking. You're right. Like, the landscape has changed so much. So I'm really glad, to come on and have this conversation with you.
Yeah, we're not in the same.
Wait a second.
Hold on. We're not in the
same room.
You know
that because of you. Oh.
We're not in the same room. So if the audio is a little more wonky, that's because Kim is not in a fancy studio.
It's all my fault. No, but because of you, you know how you called me Kimmy Love? Now my name is officially Kimmy. Like, if you go to social media and you go to my KimmySeltzer.com website, it's all Kimmy. Thanks to Brian Howie.
You changed your name to Kimmy officially?
Yes.
Is that good or bad?
It's really good because it's easy to find me.
Why was it hard to find you before? Like, what do you mean it was easy to find you? What does that even mean?
In case people want to say hi. So I'm now officially at Kimmy Seltzer, so people can find me easily.
Is that Kimmy with a Y or an IE?
No, it's a Y.
Okay, see, people are going to ask that.
Kimmy.
Right, but aren't people are going to wonder? I don't know. That's not easier than Kim Seltzer. What happened to Kim Seltzer 69? Is that gone? Wasn't that your old handle?
69.
Wait
a second. Who added the 69?
I thought that was your tag. No.
You just literally made that up, and I don't know where that. I'm not going to touch that. Oh, you know what? I'm not going to touch that one. We are here. We are clean here at the Great Love Debate.
I don't know what your handle is. Anyway, she's known as Kimmy Love, and apparently she's also known as Kimmy Seltzer. Get back to the point here. Things have gotten terrible again, maybe even worse than ever. So the storm that I referred to, we had about a 5-year storm of COVID and politics and Me Too and and people confused with new technology and the metaverse and social influencers and all these kind of things are perfect storm. Then 2022 came, and there seemed to be a reasonable amount of people and a reasonable amount of reasonable people back out into the pool. We were doing Great Love Debate live shows. They seemed fine. And suddenly in the last, 100 days or so, the clouds opened and the storm happened.
Yeah, I think we're just walking on a new earth. And amongst the relics, we are trying to figure out this thing called dating because, right, like we were trying to regulate it all for, 2 years. We were all online. Right. And nobody could go out. And then everyone went, girls gone wild, boys went crazy, and everyone was out. And now there's this kind of burnout that's happening. And it went from it's like the pendulum. It went from one extreme to the other. And
you think the way like scuba divers get what's called the bends when they come up too quickly, they want to get to the surface quickly and they break a bunch of capillaries, that's what happened.
Yeah.
People drove too enthusiastically back into the pool and they didn't check the depth of the pool and they banged their head.
Yeah, exactly. And so we're in a time of reinvention. Yes, it's the same Earth, but it looks different, and everyone looks different. Some people actually haven't even gotten out of their COVID clothing, but that's another.
Well,
subject.
I don't think that is another subject. I think people got lazy personal habits. I think a lot of people are did not age well during those 2 years for whatever happened. They got out of their routine. They lost connection with their hair colorist. They put on a little bit too much weight. Fashion stopped, apparently. And things are really sort of a mess. And I think people, which was a good thing, excitedly jumped back out there, didn't immediately see the results that they expected. And now they're like, aha, this is what I hated about dating in 2019. And we're right back there.
Yeah, no, it is so true. And I think another thing that happened is that people got so burnt out with online dating, but then it's like, it's like people getting out of prison for a while, but like no one has a home, no one where to go. So everyone's like spinning around, not really knowing what to do, where to go, how to be. And so now we're like all trying to figure it out. And I think what I'm finding too is that, one is that what you said, people just got lazy and they went out in their sweats and they're like, okay, I'm here now. What? And then there were people who actually bettered themselves during this time. So we have all kinds of people in different levels and different situations. Some people had COVID breakups. Some people got closer. And so I don't know, again, anytime that things happen and change, things have to get worse before they get better. I know this as a therapist. And so I just think that we're all learning. But I do think it's a chance to look at things a little bit differently and also go after what you want in a whole different way.
Well, that's what they were supposed to be doing for 2 years when they weren't going out, is looking things differently. And I think people got into a lot of bad habits. They got into a lot of communication bad habits. I think they started thinking about their exes in ways that rewired them once they were over them and through, and then like, oh yeah, I kind of miss Gary. He wasn't so bad because you were lonely and bored and you watched too much Netflix, and people's brains really got muddled. So I think for the first, 6 to 9 months since the world opened back up, people were basically operating on enthusiasm and reserves. And I think once they burned through that energy, they didn't have anything substantive to fall back on. And now, because they're like, wait, this sucks, they're angry. They expected somehow everybody to meet their enthusiasm and desire for bright sunny skies, and it really fell off the cliff just like that. Like, it really just flipped a switch to the wrong way again. And I might even dare to say it's worse than ever.
I know. Well, and also,
can't you help these people?
The social, I'm trying. That's why I'm coming on the Great Love Debate to reach the masses.
That's right.
Because I have found, I had a retreat this past summer. It was called Spark Your Sexy, and it was like amazing. And what came out of it is that, these were a bunch of women who were trying to get back out there, who hadn't dated for a long time. They're scared to death. They're feeling frumpy, not sexy at all. And it was like, we lit a fire under them. And now, I've kind of created these monsters. I made them really good flirts, and they're enthusiastic about dating again. Because you're exactly right. Everybody got kind of caught in a rut, and the social muscle has been atrophied for so long. People forget to how to even talk to one another and flirt with one another.
You forgot how to say hello.
Oh my God!
Are we supposed to hug?
Yeah, smiling.
We were all on the same page that when you meet your new date for the first time, that you should hug him. People are so awkward now with that. It sets a whole tone of awkwardness throughout the appetizer.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But that's just it, is that I think people have to go back to the appetizer. You can't expect to be in prison and then go out.
You need to go from hug to nachos. If you go right to the nachos, you're just there with a friend. There has to be some touch,
Absolutely. Absolutely. You can't just divulge all the nachos. You're going to get sick and you're going to throw up. So you have to take it one taste at a time, one step at a time. And it does start with just getting out. I just had a call with a client, and she's like, I know, like, when I'm out and about, like, I don't even look at people. I'm so in my shell. I'm so, like, wrapped up in my own stuff. And it's just like helping people, like, just get out into the world again. There was one woman, I have to share a story. This is so cute. I just had her practicing going out and feeling sexy, wearing great things, working on her body language, and without the purpose of really meeting anybody, but other than just like being in the world and feeling great. This was awesome. So she was feeling really frumpy. She's like, people never check me out. I always attract this kind of the friend zoney guys. I want like chemistry. So anyway, she started doing this, and she was on Bumble. And she matched with a guy. She didn't really respond to him yet, but she went out to this meeting, and she had me in her head, says, okay, Kimmy says I got to get dressed up. So she did a whole date prep thing. So she went out and she paused. She walked in the room. She's gazing around, and she sees that guy on Bumble. I can't make this up. And they look at each other and they smile, and they were both so excited to see each other. He buys her a drink. He comes over. He asks her out, and they start dating after that. And she's like, Kimmy, if I wasn't intentional and I didn't like look around and I didn't dress up, I don't think that would have happened. So it's that kind of stuff that I'm really encouraging.
All right. Well, I mean, we've got a little hope here, but
yes.
Part of the problem is I don't think in the last 6 to 9 months the men have ramped up their game as much. They really did get lazy. They really are not trying. But the issue has become, and I talked about this on a prior podcast, and I thought this was going to happen. The alpha men always got all the girls. They did. They got a big chunk of them. The pool of alpha men now, too many men have become such betas that now the alphas really have all the choices. There used to be sort of a gentle slope of like these guys, and these guys. Now, the only ones with any game and the only ones making a move are the cockiest fuckers in the room. And the women are left. So it's reinforced the terrible habits and terrible behaviors of a pool of men. I'm not sure. I haven't been in that pool most of my life, so I'm not saying I'm any better. But and then the rest of the guys are just like, I'm just going to go home. So when you see, have you been to a bar or a restaurant or a nightclub recently?
Oh, yeah.
It's a bunch of chicks and a handful of cocky fucks. That's the bar now. And so the ratio is screwed. The guys have way too much of a choice. It is what every woman feared, is it was just be a feeding frenzy for a handful of not even good dudes, just a handful of dudes who still have some balls and some game. So the whole room has been tipped in a way that I'm not sure is going to be good, but I don't know what to do about that other than to try. I think it's not a good exercise to try and soften the alphas because they're having too much fun. I think we have to build back up some of the betas. Sorry, guys, but you got to get your balls back because you're losing out worse than ever.
So how are you defining like the alphas that you see now? I'm just curious because that means different things to different people.
How do I say this without getting in trouble? Well, let's start with let's start with the easy ones. The ones who aren't afraid to give a compliment, the ones who aren't afraid to make a move, the ones who aren't afraid to ask her out, the ones who aren't afraid to buy her a drink, the ones who are not so deeply in their feelings in a public environment. So I'm not saying that it's just a bunch of knuckle-dragging cavemen out there just grabbing women by the hair. It's not that. It's the ones who probably were what we considered normal 10 years ago. That pool has shrunk, and a bigger pool of guys who are, probably standing in the corner of the bar, like with a mask on, no offense, just lost and afraid to make a move and not knowing what to do. And I think that, it used to be a little more 50-50. The alpha guys still got the girls, but now it's just those guys and a lot of the guys who either don't have the confidence, which is part of your job, Kimmy, fix these guys up, or are so lost and so confused and so are out of practice for 2 years that they just don't have the natural and instinctive game. And sorry if people don't like that word, to go for it. The guys who were doing it for years, it was their muscle memory snapped back quicker. So if you only had 3 dates a year for the prior 10 years and then you took 2 years off and then you try to come back out, that's a lot bigger disadvantage than the guys who were just never, constantly doing it, or who were dating during lockdown time, or who were doing all this stuff. They have such a huge advantage now. It was like they were at the gym the whole time.
Yeah, no, that's true. So we're not defining like the alpha guys as assholes because that's a different category. You're just saying the ones who had the skills before. And
correct, but I'm saying that they've able to turn up their asshole a little bit more and get away with it.
And create a bigger
right. I'm saying that pool has moved slightly more to the asshole side with zero repercussions, because there's the women are like, I'd rather have that than these guys.
Yeah. Well, and so with that dynamic, it's really interesting because I see that too. And I think you're so right. There's so much fear, and this is with both sexes. So not only have the muscles been atrophied and you're feeling stale, on top of it, now we have a lot of fear of getting hurt, fear of the world, fear of the Me Too, the fear, and so everyone's walking around in fear, but I see it in the women too. So here's the thing, as much as that's happening with men, and I see that, women also are being fearful to be approached. And so they're shutting down. And so then men don't know what to do.
I think you're right.
You know what I mean?
I think
so we're at a stalemate.
We are. I want to get in a little bit more. That's a good word you brought up. I'm here with Kimmy Seltzer. Is that on the birth certificate now? Is that on the driver's license? Kimmy Love Seltzer. Her middle name is L. She legally changed it to Kimmy with a Y, Love Seltzer.
Better than 69.
Yeah, I know. Get rid of that. I told you it was not good for your brand. I'm going to take a quick break.
Or was it?
Or was it? But we will be back right after this. We're back. We're with Kimmy Love. You brought up the fear-based thing. Yeah. We have spent the better part of the last 2 years, to be generous, and maybe 5 years on the outside, to be ramping up a culture that is fear-based of everything. The stimuli coming in is, oh my God, there's a killer virus. Oh my God, the icebergs are melting. Oh my God, there's serial killers everywhere. Oh my God. That people are already ramped up in their shields and in their what's going to come or how's the other shoe going to drop, which was already terrible to bring into the dating anyway. So when you're operating at a fear level at about a 7 before you even get dressed to go on the date, it's really created a bad environment in which to date. That, and you constantly have to, the fear of being judged, not just by your date, by your peers, for your pictures, for your everything. People are so in their heads about like, what does everybody think of this scenario, this relationship, this scene, my hat, whatever, that it is making people get into a scenario and a situation and possibly a relationship with a really bad state of mind.
It is. And I fear that this conversation can feel like gloom and doom. And what I want to say about all this is that, what happened in the world just exacerbated probably what other fears were going on too. And so on top of the world stuff, we also had fears of, getting hurt again in past relationships. And especially if you're over the age 40, like that's totally real. And the trust is broken and all of that. And so here's the thing, and we know this, is that what you fear and what you want is sometimes the same, and that's what keeps you stuck, because you'll want something, but then you go back. It's like a rubber band snapping back. So the question becomes, well, how do we get past this? How do we get past fear to create kind of the new world that we're in and change? And and Brian, you're so right. I think people keep getting ahead of everything, right? Instead of just being present and connected. And we've all gotten so serious. Oh my God, y'all are so serious. Like half my coaching is just getting people to like laugh and enjoy life
You're
again.
Right. It doesn't sound the same out in the world. It doesn't sound the same in a restaurant. Every restaurant in America now sounds like a restaurant in Seattle always sounded. Seattle was always less laughter than there should have been. A bar in Seattle doesn't sound the same as a bar in Atlanta. Sorry. But now Atlanta sounds a lot like Seattle. If you've gone to an event, a sporting event, people are not as comfortable cheering or screaming, and it just doesn't sound the same. Everything is a little muffled in a wrong way. It's like almost people still have the masks on, and people don't realize I'm very honest about my 3 fears on this earth. My fears are height, snakes, and flying. Okay? I'm aware of those things, but I'm not afraid of being hurt, and I'm not afraid of being rejected, because I think that's normal, and I think that you have to accept that as part of living. So I'm like, okay, here are the things that I'm afraid. I don't deal with the snakes, and I try not to deal with the heights. I'm not zip lining, but I don't. And flying, I do have to deal with. Too bad. But this, I'm not going to engage with another person because I only see the downside, or I only see how this is going to go bad. That's as unhealthy as me. Being afraid of snakes in a city, I'm afraid of snakes in New York City where there's no snakes. Scottsdale and here, there's rattlesnakes within probably 50 feet of me now.
And also iguanas, I know that about you. But the thing is, we cannot control some of those things. And I have a whole...
Why can't we control them? Why can't we control them?
We can't... Okay, so here's what you cannot control what's outside of you and what's around you. All you can do is kind of change things about yourself to get a different result in the way you react to things. And that's really what I teach people. I have this class coming up that combines a retreat and a 6-week class, and I'm spending a whole unit on conquering fears. And the thing is part of it is not getting so lofty with your goals, because you're right. Confidence to me is simply experience. If you haven't been around snakes, then they're scary. I don't like snakes, but if you were exposed to it every day, knowing that you could be safe with it, that might go down a little bit. And so the notion is, if dating is scary, if relationships are scary, don't think about it like that.
Well,
just start thinking about little things you can do to be social then.
Well, here's what happens with that. And you're right. On a Friday night, a lot of, I'll just say women, if they don't have a date, they're not going out. And if they're staying home, do you know what they're watching?
Bridgerton.
No, they're watching fucking Dateline, which is doing stories on this psycho, he chopped up his girlfriend in little pieces. So not only are they not dating because everybody's an asshole, and they're sitting home getting reinforced. That's when they air that shit. Friday and Saturday nights is when they are airing men are terrible serial killers on TV. And so their choices are, I don't want to do that. I'm going to sit home and do that. You need to watch Bridgerton. You need to watch Downton Abbey. You need to watch, you need to put on, Pretty Woman or something. You need to put on an I Love Lucy.
So you can listen to the two of us talk and be a passenger, but at what point do you take action and actually do some of the things that we're saying? If it is just going once a week to the grocery store and talking with the opposite sex, if it's been a really long time, that's better focus than saying, oh, I have to get out there and date and have a relationship. That's too much, and you will shut down. The
answers are always out of your house. We've said this to death. We got too comfortable of being inside. And I think I think that people came back outside, and then they're like, no, my norm is back in the safe comfort of my covers and my Netflix, and that they got out of so many routines that I think maybe they burst back out when the prison doors open. They ran around, and then they're like, oh my God, I don't know how to handle this, and I'm going to slowly retreat. And I think that's what's happened over the second half of 2022, which is, I'm not saying I'm not hopeful. I'm saying that the only way to get this hope back is to recognize that this is going on, that people are behaving differently, and to take a look at yourself and be like, how do I reset myself? Not necessarily to 2019 and not necessarily the way I've been doing 2021. What can I do for 2023 that it's going to make sure I get out of this rut permanently and stay out of it?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And I always say, on my podcast, I always end with, dating is working on yourself. People compartmentalize the two too. It's oh, well, I'm working on myself. I don't know if I'm really ready. But what does that mean? What are you doing while you're sitting there and thinking about it? Go out there and do, so that you can counteract some of these fears and the things that, you have been kind of stale on. So if you haven't flirted with the opposite sex, go out and do that. Don't think about your next boyfriend or girlfriend, And so the more you can stay present, the more you can have fun, the more you put yourself in practice, in repetition, that's when you start building that confidence.
Yeah.
And
get your flirt back. We've lost that altogether. Get your flirt on. All right. If people want to hear more from me, they obviously have followed this podcast. If people want to hear more from you, don't just go to my website and hit the Talk to Kim button, which you can do that, but tell everybody where they can find you. And then plug whatever you want to plug. I know you had something to plug here. Plug away.
Well, yeah, because I mean, it's so perfect for what we're talking about. I have a workshop coming up October 18th at 4:30 Pacific time called Stop Hating Dating, because we all hate dating right now. And it's for boys and girls, you know, and we are getting into a Zoom room. It's virtual. It's for 2 hours. It's interactive. It's not just a talking head. And we're going to talk about some of these things that we just addressed and ways of how to get back out there, how to build your confidence, and ways of like navigating this new earth with all the relics around us. So if you are interested, click the link that you see in the show notes. Also, you can find it on my website, kimmyseltzer.com. It's up there. So Stop Hating Dating. And I would love to just help you, you know, because it just takes that like one action thing that will like cause energy in a wave and to start getting excited about this again. And of course, you can always go to my website, and all my handles, as I said before, is at Kimmy Seltzer. And of course, the Charisma Quotient is my podcast, which Brian Howie has been on multiple times. Let's have you back on.
Not in a long time now. She said the key word, boys and girls. Sorry if this offends anybody. At the end of the day, we're all still boys and girls. Don't forget that. That will go a long, long way to getting your flirt back on. Shoot us an email, greatlovedebate@gmail.com, if you have questions, comments, thoughts, or something for Kimmy Love. Go to greatlovedebate.com. I'm not doing any more shows this year. I've had it. You guys got to get your shit together, and then I'll go back out maybe next year for our 10th season. I'm on strike. I'm on strike for doing a live show until I feel that the temperature is better again. But remember to please like, share, follow. Please review this podcast and the Charisma Quotient with Kim Seltzer. Your reviews mean a lot in the podcasting ecosystem because, as always, at the Great Love Debate, we never stop making love. See you next time.